So you mentioned controller and processor there. What is a controller or what's a processor?
Yeah, it can be a bit confusing. And it's one of the things that we spend a lot of time on with our clients in the beginning, because essentially a controller is an organization that would collect data directly from an individual. So it's the organization that determines the purpose and means of processing that personal information. Whereas a processor actually processes data on behalf of a controller. So the easiest way to think of it as is in the processor role, because if an organization has a contract with a customer to process their information, and that could mean just storage actually too, and if they have that contract in place with the controller, then they know they're in the processor role. And if they don't, they may be in that controller role, actually collecting the information directly from the individuals.
Gotcha. And do you ever see instances where someone is both a controller and a processor?
We do, and most often organizations are a controller and a processor, but here's where it gets tricky, because you have to look at the scope of the ISO certification. Mm-hmm. Now, with 27701 being an extension of 27001, the scope has to match, meaning that if you've defined your scope for ISO 27001 as being a specific service or business unit, and then you add on 27701, you can't extend that scope further beyond what the ISMS is. And if you do, it does change the ISMS scope as well. So those scopes have to match. And in most cases, the ISO certification is on a business unit or a service. So usually in those cases, the role of the organization is going to be in the processor role. If they're in the controller role, they may be relating to employee data. It may relate to marketing data, something other than processing data on behalf of your customers in the processor role. So in those cases, if you are both a controller and a processor, you may not be both for the scope of the certification.
Yeah, I would say that would almost definitely be the case in most organizations, because if you look at most organizations that are processing data on a third party their client's behalf, they tend to scope their ISO 27001 ISMS to be specific to those processing activities. Okay, exactly. That's a good clarification. Thank you.